What is the law of polarity and why is that so important on your awakening and your healing journey? Now, in this video, I really want to talk about some things that we really learn from key texts such as the 12 universal laws, the Hermetic Principles, the law of one, that really teach us about our energy, the transmutation process, and really how we reach that state of alchemy as we are moving along on this awakening journey. So in this video, I really wanted to cover, the law of polarity, and so you can better understand the transmutation process that you really have to master, and how this is going to really help you expedite your own healing journey once you truly understand what is happening in the transmutation process. Now, to start off, what is the law of polarity? Well, let's just understand that while we are separate from the divine, experiencing and having this human experience in the 3D, we are under and governed by the law of polarity in a world of duality, which basically means that everything that we experience, as long as we are separate from the divine, is the polar opposite of everything in this universe. So for example, if we have pain, we also experience pleasure. If there is day, there is also night. If there is masculine, there's also feminine. Even though the underlying energy between these is the same, all it is these are vibrational states having the same energy, same essence, but really they are on the opposite ends of the same pole. I think one of the best ways I can explain it is if you take a look at the integer chart that we kind of take a look at in math, you have 5 or number 1, number 2 on both sides of a same scale. But really, the difference between them is one is on the positive side and one is on the negative side. And so as long as we are, in this state of separation, experiencing the 3D, we are experiencing this law of polarity. And really why it exists is so that we can appreciate one side over the other. For example, if all we ever had was darkness, then we couldn't really understand light. If we have separation, we can only understand unity because we've been in separation. And so everything exists in the separation until we unite by going within. And that is when that separation truly ends for us. But until then, we appreciate law of polarity to really give us that overall experience so that we can really, experience both ends of those scales of that vibrational state, whether it be positive or negative. Now, why does understanding polarity really matter on your spiritual awakening journey? Well, simply because sometimes when we are trying to integrate our light and our shadow, we are toggling between, going through this various emotions. And really what we want to do is shift from any sort of a negative vibrational state, that negative frequency, and ultimately transmute it towards the positive. That is what we are really doing on this journey. We're stepping in from darkness into the light eventually. And so what you want to really understand here is that as you go through any negative emotions, you want to be able to transmute it into the positive. Now, for example, let's say you were feeling a lot of fear, whatever that fear is that's coming up for you on your healing journey. You want to basically transmute it into courage. Understanding the polar opposite of what you are experiencing is crucial on your journey. And so the way that you're going to do that is instead of getting stuck on, oh my God, I'm feeling this fear. Oh my God, it's coming up for me. What do I do about this? Analyzing it, dissecting it over and over is only going to keep you in the vibration of fear. To transmute it into courage, what is required of you is to start taking positive steps toward that positive emotion, that positive polarity that you want to transmute that, experience into. Everything in your 3D experience is going to experience that positive or negative effect. And once you understand this, it can totally shift your healing journey. So, let's say you are experiencing that fear, instead of really being consumed by that fear, even if it's small steps, start taking steps towards what would make you feel courageous. And as you do that, as you start to cultivate the habits, that thinking pattern, that new action, you are able to change that vibrational frequency from the negative to the positive. Now, same thing with sadness. If you are experiencing a lot of sadness on your journey, regardless of what is really coming up for you, and you can't even tell where this is coming from, instead of being consumed by that state of sadness, you want to shift the vibrational frequency behind it by changing it to its polar opposite. And the more you focus on happiness, taking little steps that would make you happy, you are going to be able to transmute that experience, that vibrational state, to the polar opposite, which is the positive end. So you want to take a look at everything you are experiencing and make that shift based on looking at the polar opposite. Now, while I say that, I want to be clear that you cannot ever transmute, an emotion, a feeling, a vibrational state to something else. What do I mean by that? Now, you cannot take, if you're experiencing sadness, you can only transmute that vibrational state to its polar opposite, which is happiness. You couldn't take sadness and make that into courage, right? Because they are not the polar opposites to each other. So understanding the polar opposite of what you are experiencing energetically is key, because once you understand what you are experiencing, you figure out the polar opposite, you start to move towards that polar opposite, and you have changed the state of your vibration and the state of your experience. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. God bless.